So, hello everyone, here I am with today's editorial of 3rd September 2021. Before we move further on to read the editorial, just have a quick glance of the vocabulary words that we're going to come across in this session. The first one is tactics. It means a national strategy carefully planned to achieve specific end. So, this is basically talking about a strategy or an like a blueprint of something of something that you're looking or eyeing to achieve, of a mission or something like that. Condemning is express complete disapproval. So to condemn idea is to show sharp disapproval regarding it or to disagree with it. Combating is take action to reduce or prevent something bad or undesirable. So this is basically to fight back in order to prevent something undesirable or unfortunate to happen. Next is punitive. It means punishment. Water down is less extreme. So this is not basically a word, but that's a phrase. To make it more clear, let me give you an example. Let's take a beaker with HCl in it, that is hydrochloric acid, and I'm sure you might have done this experiment, and you put water in it in order to make it more dilute and reduce the concentration of it. So that is basically by adding water you are reducing the concentration of HCl. So that is what is water down, making less extreme. Next is abstain. It is prevent oneself from doing what they enjoy to do. So it's to restrain yourself from doing what you enjoy doing. Like for example, when your exams are near, you try to abstain yourself from using social media or engaging yourself on cell phones. Next is uptick. It means small increase or slight upward trend. So in anything, like it is basically, if you look at graphs and datas, you can see if there's a slight increase, you can call it as uptick. Or maybe when something is going down and then there's a slight increase, that's called uptick. Next is recourse, a source of help in difficult situation. So a friend in need is a friend indeed. So a friend in need is a recourse for you, because that person is the only source of help to you in your difficult situation. Seized is take hold of suddenly or forcibly. But so it's not leave, but it's take hold forcibly. It's to take hold of something suddenly or forcibly. So that's called seize. That is basically, you might have heard this term when you read history, like this seized power, or Babur seized the throne. Is to basically forcibly take something. So further moving on to read the article. Today's article is read as quote unquote noble intentions. So whose intentions is it talking about? It is talking about India's intentions on being the president of the UNSC for a month. That was United Nations Security Council. The United Nations must ensure that the Taliban uphold human rights and give up terror tactics. So the United Nations, which is a committee of all the recognized nations in the world, should ensure that Taliban upholds human rights and does not violate the human right, including those of women and children living in that country, and should give up terror tactics that it is planning, or terrorist attacks or terrorism that it's planning or is looking forward. It should give up all of that. As India ended its month-long presidency of the United Nations Security Council this week, the government claimed a victory of sorts for chairing a session that resulted in adoption of UNSC Resolution 2593 condemning terrorism and urging the Taliban to ensure human rights in Afghanistan. So here it's talking about that with the end of India's 1 month long presidency of United Nations Security Council, India feels as if they have got a victory, because they have been able to adopt a resolution that is called as Resolution 2593, which talks about condemning, that is to disapprove or to be totally against terrorism, and to urge Taliban to ensure human rights in Afghanistan. So this resolution basically talks about resolution 2593 talks about upholding human rights, and to condemn is to basically abolish terrorism in Afghanistan. The government has said that the resolution sponsored by US, the UK and France addressed key Indian concerns, calling for Taliban to ensure safe evacuations of Afghans wishing to leave, not allowing Afghan soil to be used for terrorist activity. So the government said that this resolution was sponsored, that means backed by the US, UK and France, which are the permanent members of the UN Security Council, and the other two members are China and Russia, who did not sponsor this resolution, but US, UK and France sponsored this, and they looked into India's key concerns, and the concerns mentioned here are that calling Taliban to ensure safe evacuations of Afghans who are wishing to leave the country. That means the Taliban should allow the Afghans who do not want to reside any longer in Afghanistan, and should ensure that they are safely evacuated out of Afghanistan and to a safe place. And the other is that it should not allow the Afghan territory to turn into a terrorist territory, because that is going to cause a major threat to India, because Afghanistan will or might help Pakistan to fight against us, and also that if it is a terrorist a land ruled by terrorists, then it is going to affect us, as we are a neighbor of Afghanistan. The passage of resolution was timely, practically coinciding with the exit of the last US troop from Kabul and the Taliban's declaration of complete victory. So this resolution was coinciding, means it was back to back or on the same time when US troops were leaving the Kabul, the last of them, like all of them have been evacuated and have left Kabul, and Taliban has taken complete victory. So this resolution was very important to pass currently, because now everything is in the hands of the Taliban, and we need to set some rules or set some limits to Taliban's power. So I think it was very important to pass this resolution. It also followed on 3 discussions held under India's chairmanship that have set out the expectations from the new regime in Afghanistan. So it was also followed by 3 discussions under India's chairmanship, which had set some expectations from Afghanistan's new government, that is of Taliban. The importance, and as I told you that now everything will be in the hands of Taliban, so we need to set up some limitations. So here they have, instead of saying limitations, they have used a positive term and written expectations from the Taliban government. So the expectations are to uphold human rights, to push from inclusive, negotiated political settlement for government, and condemning all acts of terror, including the recent attack on Kabul airport, preventing any further attacks, and combating the presence of UN designated entities. So here it's saying that some of the expectations are, as earlier mentioned, to uphold human rights and to prevent any further attacks or prevent the Afghan soil to turn into a place of terrorist hub, a place where terrorism can flourish. And this terrorism and terrorist attack should also include the recent attack on Kabul, and meaning that this kind of attacks shouldn't be seen in future. And the one that is mentioned here, that is negotiated political settlement for government and condemning all acts of terror. So negotiated political settlement of government is that now that the Taliban has overthrown the government, that currently existed, and there's a lot of political chaos. So it's saying that they should maintain a political stable state in the country, so that it can be governed properly and development can take place in the country. Further on, however, the resolution did not contain any consequential language that would give the UNSC stated intentions any real teeth and appear to accept the Taliban regime as a default force in Afghanistan. So here it's saying a very important thing, that is, this resolution did not contain any consequential language. Consequential language is basically a real solution or important, because this resolution did not hold that much importance or did not find us any real solution, because it appears that already some of the members of United Nations appear to accept the Taliban regime as a default force in Afghanistan. So it looks like even some of the members of United Nations have accepted that in current Taliban is the only government that is going to rule Afghanistan, that is default force that's going to rule Afghanistan. And hence this UNSC resolution does not seem that it has found us any real solution, and instead for now only Taliban is going to rule Afghanistan. Further moving on, while it is very early to consider more punitive action against the Taliban for violating their commitments by using the UN Charter Chapter 7 mandate that empowers the UNSC to maintain peace, it is disappointing that the India-chaired resolution does not contain language that would hold the new regime more accountable. So here it's saying that it is very early to give punishment. Punitive is punishment. To give punishment for Taliban for violating this Chapter 7 of UN's Charter that empowers UNSC to maintain peace, because they have started up an uprising in Taliban in Afghanistan and thrown the current government that was there and established the Taliban regime. So although they have violated or have not maintained peace, but still it will be very early for the UNSC to take any actions or give punishment to the UNSC. And it is very disappointed that this resolution, that was this resolution 2593 that is passed by India, this does not help the Taliban to become more accountable. The India-led resolution has although set some expectations from the Taliban government, but it has not made it any further accountable. So we do not know what it is going to be doing in the future. Further moving on, the watered down language was probably on account of severe opposition from Russia and China, who later decided to abstain. So this watered down language, that there wasn't any real teeth on this situation and this resolution, because as we had seen, only 3 members of the permanent UNSC had agreed and sponsored it, but China and Russia hadn't, and were in opposition. Not in opposition, but they did not support them. But now they have decided that they'll abstain, that is to hold back or to hold oneself back from doing what they actually want to. So they have said that we'll be neutral, we'll neither support Taliban or be against it. This divide in the P5 nations will only prove to be counterproductive if the UNSC wants to remain seized of the situation, as the resolution affirms. So this P5 is permanent members of the UNSC, that is USA, UK, France, China and Russia. The P5 nations will only prove to be counterproductive. So counterproductive is having opposite of the desired result or effect. So if they all do not come together and pass this resolution, so seized is basically to acquire or hold suddenly or forcibly, to take something forcibly. So this UNSC will not be able to do any firm actions regarding this situation if the United Nations 5 permanent members are not on one side. It is hoped that the UN system acknowledges the powerful leverage it has in Afghanistan's future and actualizes all mechanisms in its mandate to monitor and progress the government formation. So here it's saying that uh, the United Nations knows that leverage is basically trying to is having a grip on. So it is currently it has some grip on Afghanistan's current government, that is Taliban, because it has not flourished that much, and if it does not do it right now, then it knows what will be its future and actual mechanisms will be, that terrorism will exist, and it should grip in or increase its grip on the current government, that is in Taliban, to monitor the progress of government formation, and also it should increase its grip right now to ensure the government formation right now. Otherwise, everything is going to be unbalanced. A major tool is the India Chair 1988 Taliban Sanctions Committee, due to meet soon, which needs to ensure that no designated leader of the Taliban and their associates are given recourse to fund, arms, or travel permissions unless they show a commitment to international principles. So here it's saying actually this India chaired 1988 Taliban Sanctions Committee. So the UNSC has further subdivisions, and one of them is this, which is chaired by India. And this meeting is also going to happen soon, and in which they have planned to ensure that Taliban does not recourse, that is supported by funds or arms or travel permissions by any other countries, unless they they show their commitment to the international principles of making peace and fulfilling what the resolution that has been passed in UNSC demands. The renewal on September 17 of the UN assistance mission in Afghanistan mandate is another lever. As a concerned neighbor of Afghanistan, one that could be drastically affected by an uptick in terrorism, there a believer in UN-led multilateral order, India still has a role in Afghanistan's future. So here it's saying that the United Nations assistance mission in Afghanistan's mandate is another lever. So here, as India, we being a concerned neighbor of Afghanistan, we will be drastically affected by the uptick, that is even a slight improvement or basically slight increase in the terrorism in Afghanistan, that's going to affect, even a slight increase in terrorism in Afghanistan, that's going to badly affect India, as also we have diplomatic ties with it, and also as being a neighbor of Afghanistan. While it has decided to embark on talks with Taliban in Doha, it must continue to play the role on the world stage. So although there was a talk between India and Taliban in Doha, it must continue to put forward what India wants on the world stage, because whatever happens in Taliban is going to brutally or greatly affect India. So we need to take steps in advance to prevent all of this. So this was the article today, and this is a very controversial and very informative piece of article. So to understand this better, we need to look at some more further data. So I've put on in this video. So some of the spotlight projects that India has installed in Afghanistan are Salma Hydel Power Project. So this 42 megawatt Salma Dam on Afghan-India Friendship Dam project in Herat province. It is a hydropower and irrigation project that was completed and launched in 2016. So these are some of the projects that India has inaugurated and developed in Afghanistan. The second one is Zahrang Delram Highway. So this is a highway, Zahrang Delram, connecting these two places. Highway, a 218-kilometer path built by the Border Roads Organization, also counts as a flagship Indian project in Afghanistan. The cost of building the highway near the Afghanistan-Iran border is estimated to be $150 million. That's a lot of amount. The highway provides access to Iran's key Chabar port and is strategically important to New Delhi. Although this was for our benefit, but still, we have made some improvements there. And then you won't believe the Parliament of Afghanistan itself. The Afghan Parliament is another high profile project completed by India at $90 million. And this is spread over 100 acres of land. Next is the restoration and inauguration of Star Palace in 2016, originally built in late 19th century, is another crucial project undertaken by India and Afghanistan. India, Afghanistan, and Aga Khan Development Network had signed a tripartite agreement for the restoration project. The work was completed between 2013 and 2016 by Aga Khan Trust for Culture. So you can see that India has spent so much money in Afghanistan building up infrastructures and many things. So I think it is very important for India to make diplomatic ties, and it will be very troublesome for India if Taliban is in power and if everything does not go well. So it's going to be a huge loss for India because like if the Taliban denies India the access of this highway, then that's going to cause or act as a hinder in India's trade and bilateral trade and infrastructure development. So in 2012, the two nations signed the India-Afghanistan Strategic Partnership Agreement, which helped enhance trade and bilateral ties further. So in 2012, Afghanistan and India signed this India-Afghanistan Strategic Partnership Agreement, which helped them enhance their ties or diplomatic ties with regards to trade. As part of the agreement, the two countries promised to strengthen trade, economic, scientific, and technological cooperation, as well as cooperation between other bodies of business and industry representative with a view to expanding trade and economic relations. So this was basically to enhance their relations in all forms, in trade, economy, scientific, technological, and everything. Afghanistan, this is very interesting. Afghanistan also got duty-free access to India's market as part of the agreement. As of 2019-2020, bilateral trade between India and Afghanistan was estimated to be over $1 billion. So there had been trade between India and Afghanistan, and that was over $1 billion. So that was quite a lot. However, the Taliban's renewed control over Afghanistan has threatened the country's trade relations with India. So you can see how this Afghanistan's coming into power is affecting India's trade and its diplomatic ties with the Afghanistan. So thank you everyone.